the DORK Podcast with Rich Keefe. It's the DORK Podcast. And Davey. It's the DORK Podcast. Hashtag. It's the hashtag DORK Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Dork. My name is Rich Keefe, joined as always by Davey Eyeballs. He is Racula von Dracula. All hail the king of ginger ale. It's Ryan Davey. Davey, how are you?
Feeling spooky tonight.
Good. I'm glad you are, because Dorktober is about half over. Where does the time go? It's humming by, and we're back with another spooky episode, and it's a good one. Top 10 horror. I always say horror. People, I always say
Horror.
like top 10 horror movies.
Top 10 whores.
Whore. I'll tell you, she was a whore. So top 10 horror movies.
Horror.
Horror. How many syllables is horror?
2.
Horror. Top 10 horror.
I get on the wife. She says, "How do you say this word?" I'm going to spell it for you. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Poem.
Poem.
Great. That's how you're supposed to say it.
Poem.
She says poem.
Poem. No, it's poem.
It's poem. It's a 2-syllable word.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have a poem for you. You want to hear a poem?
Yeah.
Shift in my past.
Poem.
Last week, I saw a film. As I recall, it was a horror film.
This is a whole series of horror films. So the idea of the horror franchise is, this is by hashtag dork calculations. It has to be a minimum of 3 movies.
Yes.
3 movies makes a franchise. Some could argue that's simply a trilogy, but I think that's a good building block. If it's one, if it's just 2, it's a movie and a sequel. So you need many. Now the movies, the franchises on this list all have many. There are
way more than that.
Wait, they blow the doors off at 3. I think 5 might be the minimum without giving it too much away. Yeah, so that's what we're dealing with. I'm curious. It's very open-ended. I asked you, I'm like, just send me your top 10 horror movie franchises. How did you come up with your list? Basically, like, was it the strength of one movie? Was it the strength of all of them together? Like, how did you go about it?
I did like kind of like the strength of all of them together. Because there are some, they definitely go quantity over quality. Like we'll get into some, like why you think they would be higher, but they're not. It's because there's a lot of dumps in there.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
And so my number one, like, and I also looked at the Metacritic scores. So like the average Metacritic score of like all of the movies.
Okay.
So like that was where I went with it. And that's why, like, especially my top 3, like I was looking, and my top 3, if I'm looking at my list right now. So rare misses in those.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. There's a few that I think, and we'll get to later on in the list, obviously, that you're like, man, all these movies are kind of like good to great. Like even the worst ones are watchable, and fun. And then there are other ones where there's just so many, and you have a couple that are really, really strong, a couple that are really, really bad, almost like an X-Men franchise or Star Wars franchise, like that kind of thing. There's also, I think, a handful of kind of automatics, and then there's way more than you think. And then I ended up having a hard time being like, should this one make it, not make it? So we'll do honorable mentions later on as well. But there's like a whole series of ones like, oh yeah, that's right. That's also kind of a franchise, whether it's just sequels or got into like the world of the reboot and then the requel and then like everything else. So there's a lot of movies that qualify, or franchises that qualify, I should say. Why don't you kick us off with a movie that was on, or a franchise that was on your list, not on mine, and it comes in at number 10.
Yeah, and this is one I put it on my list knowing there were at least 3. I had no idea that there were this many.
This is insane.
And that's VHS. So to be honest, so I'm glad that this made the list, but I think I've only seen 3 of them, and there are 9.
That was startling to me. I've seen the first 2, and I remember being like, these are pretty good found footage shit. They're like a lot of creepy, weird stuff, like unsettling stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I love the first 2.
I watched the first 2, and then I watched 85, which is actually really good. You would like it. So, but I really like, when I was a kid, I used to love Creepshow. Remember like Creep Show, or like there was another movie, Tales from the Dark Side or Tales from the Crypt. I like these little like horror vignettes,
Yeah.
like these little bite-sized things. And this is kind of like the modern version of those. And you get it's like found footage, but it's like the first one is someone just finds like a stack of like VHS tapes and just like starts playing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, but these are really good. The ones I've seen are really good. I don't know.
There's so many.
There are so many of them. So, and they come out. It looks like they've been coming out like one a year, basically, since like 10 years.
That's what. Yeah, definitely is what it looks like. Yeah, the first two were like pretty scary. They kind of like stick with you a little bit. There's a shitload of found footage movies, and there's a lot of decent ones, honestly. Like I kind of like. I enjoy the found footage.
I like that. Yeah, but this is because the 3 or 4 I've seen have been really, really good. So if you haven't seen VHS, definitely check out the first 2, and check out 85 if you haven't seen it, which came out last year.
All right, very good. I'll add that to my my queue. All right, coming in at number 9 is one of these franchises that has a million, in fact, a dozen. It's sitting at a dozen right now, and that would be Friday the 13th.
Again, it's classic, but out of 12 movies, I would say 3 of them are good.
Yes. I'll go. You know what? I'll say 5. And good might be strong. So the first one's a classic. The second one is like the
I think it's the best one. Yeah.
So those 2 were good. Yeah. Freddy versus Jason, I think, is really fun. I like Freddy versus Jason.
Yes.
I think it's fun. Friday the 13th, the remake that came out in 2009, I thought kind of added like it kind of took part 1 and 2 and kind of melded them together a little bit. And it's like a newer take on it. I actually enjoyed that. I think I saw that one in the theater. Pretty fun. And then also, is it Final Chapter or what's the Tommy Jarvis? He's in a couple of them, obviously, but there's a Tommy Jarvis one that I kind of like too.
It might be Final 3. Chapter.
Maybe was it just part 3? Maybe it was part 3.
Yeah.
So they all blend together because I'll sit and watch them on like AMC when they just like play them all, and I'll be like, oh, these are some good parts. But you're right, there's a stretch there where it's like he goes to Manhattan, he goes to space, he's fucking. It's the final Friday when it certainly wasn't the final Friday.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of dumps in this.
Oh, but so many dumps.
Voorhees is such an icon, and there's at least. Yeah, but I'd say minimum 3 really fun ones, up to 5. So it's got a place on here. What happened was I think this was low on both of our lists, but the combined points got it on here. So
which is fine. I think it, like you said, I think it does belong on here. But just again, there's 12 of these things, and like some of these are really fucking bad.
So they must be sitting on the greatest idea ever, or waiting until they get it for the 13th Friday the 13th movie.
It's got to be a good one, right?
They haven't. It's 2024. They haven't made a Friday the 13th movie in 15 years. Isn't that kind of weird?
Yeah, and yet we've had however many Halloweens since then.
Yes. Well, way too many.
Yeah, way too many. Well, we had like the Rob Zombie ones, and then the Danny McBride one. So
yeah. Now there might be a TV show.
Oh, god damn it!
Yeah, I don't know. They can't get enough of it.
So 8.
Yes.
And again, sneaky more movies than I thought there were. But this is kind of like they're not so much related as they are kind of like offshoots of each other. So number 8 is the Conjuring verse, which I know you're a big fan of. So we put the Conjuring. It was made our list of like scariest movies of all time, which rightfully so. But again, I mean, there's some really good stuff in here, and some some not great stuff.
So they're currently filming another Conjuring movie with Ed and Lorraine Warren, Vera Farmiga, and Patrick Wilson. It would be the 4th straight up Conjuring movie. It'd be the 9th in this series. So they debuted with The Conjuring in 2013, which is still the best by far of this entire universe.
By far. Yeah.
Annabelle came out in 2014, which I think is decent, actually.
Yeah.
Conjuring 2 came out in 2016. That was the one in England, and I thought decent enough. That's also based off a true story. Annabelle Creation, not very good. The Nun, not very good. Annabelle Comes Home, surprisingly good. I like the Annabelle Come Home a lot. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, terrible.
We did a pod. We did that one. One of the Dorktobers long ago, and man, that movie stink.
That blew. And then I I've seen all of the movies except for the most recent, which was The Nun 2 Electric Boogaloo. I've not seen The Nun 2.
I think it's on Max. I think it's on Max now.
I
think you can watch it.
You know what? Maybe I will, because I did hear it's better than The Nun, but I really did not care for The Nun, so that's not really saying much. But this one's fun, and again, it's got one of the all-time greats, so that's why this was on my list. I'm like, all right, I gotta include this somewhere. And then there's a handful of solid ones. I don't know what the second best movie on the list is. It honestly might be Annabelle Comes Home. I remember liking that one a lot. All right, coming in at number 7 on our list is the Night of the Living Dead franchise. So there's a couple different ways to look at this. You can just take the George A. Romero Living Deads, which is still 6 movies. And or you can also, if you want to, add some like the remakes, like Dawn of the Dead from Zack Snyder, which is good. Night of the Living Dead had like a 1990 remake. But for the sake of this will be the original 1968 Night of the Living Dead, which is a top 10 horror movie. The original Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead. Pretty good. Yeah.
I have seen all of these movies, and they're great. Like like you talk about, and I hate saying these like highfalutin things like genre defining, but like these,
they kind of are.
They kind of are. I mean, this is the thing that every horror person who's ever directed a horror movie, like, it's the kind of gateway into, well, how'd you get into like horror movies, like Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah,
like that's it's for 1968. Like that movie holds up kind of too.
Dude,
Black
it's
and white.
By the way, they lost the studio doesn't have the rights, so it's like on YouTube. We could probably post it like on Twitter, and like we could post it on our YouTube chat. We could literally post it. We should post it on our YouTube channel.
I don't seen it. Here you go.
Yeah,
like have you seen those things where people do that with movies like fuck it, Deadpool 2? Or like
this is one. It's similar to like Winnie the Pooh, where like like I don't think it's not owned by anybody right now, which is crazy.
Yeah, the whole movie. It's a timeless classic movies. Boom. There it is.
It is legit awesome. I remember I bought like one of those, it was like 100 horror movies for $10 or 20, whatever it was. It was like, it came in like a binder, and there was like some shit dumps in there, but then there was also some classics, and this was one of the ones. And so I saw this like in high school, and I was like, oh my God.
It's like those things they say.
Yeah.
They sell you like those little handheld video game things. It's got like 3,000 games on it. Like 5 of them you want to play.
They all suck ass. But no, this was like legit way ahead of its time. And they talk about it all the time during these documentaries, but they had like a black actor as the lead hero character in a 1968 movie. And George A. Romero was like, yeah, I just wanted like the best guy for it. So I didn't really give a shit about that or kind of thing. I told you I saw George A. Romero. He came to Concord, New Hampshire, and did like a talk. And so this was years and years ago. Me and my dad went. It was like at like the Capitol Center for the Arts or something. And George A. Romero, they did like a double feature. Creepshow actually might have been one of them. He showed. Yeah,
he did. He directed. He directed some of the things in Creepshow.
Yeah. So like I think it was like a double feature, and he like talked afterwards. It was like cool as hell.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was George Romero. All right, David, number 6.
Number 6, and this is I had it number 2 on my list.
So I didn't have it.
I know why.
Yeah,
I know why. It was so high on my list, and it probably didn't make your list, is because you don't consider these to be horror movies.
I consider one of them, and that's why I was like, yeah.
So it is still a franchise. So I have number 6. We have the Alien franchise, which sci-fi horror. I would say it's a meld of the two. Aliens, unbelievable movies. And I would say, so if you take out Alien versus Predator, so I was looking at the Metacritic score, all of these have positive Metacritic scores except for the Alien versus Predator ones. Which so I
liked AVP. I liked the first one. The second one, it was kind of stupid if I remember correctly. The first one was fun. Like I thought they had like a good enough reason to do it. I enjoyed it, but yeah, no, the first two are insanely good movies. They're classics. Alien made our top 50 movies, and Aliens was one of the ones that we get the most emails about, being like, how did that not make the list? They're both great. So for me, and this is just a matter of opinion, I think the first one, the way that I know it's the same creatures and all of this, but it's the way that it's shot. That one's a horror movie. I haven't seen Alien Romulus, My guess is that that's also a horror movie,
and it's really good. I'm told it's very,
Yeah.
very good.
and it's the guy that directed Don't Breathe. So I want to see it.
Yeah.
The other ones to me are just very, very sci-fi, and that's why I
Yeah,
didn't
so I
include
would
it. But
say
I'm glad it's on the list. I have no problem.
I like Resurrection a lot. I like Prometheus. I liked Covenant.
Yep.
I haven't seen Romulus yet, but like Alien versus Predator, like those are like eh.
Mhm.
I was thinking about Predator too. You could make a case, but there's so many bad Predator movies that you couldn't really do it. But
Although
um,
Prey kind of swings it
Prey
back.
is so good.
Prey was sick.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is my Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Of like you're like you consider it scale like a horror movie, but I don't. I get it that this would be. I wanted this to be higher, but these are fucking great movies.
It's still, I mean, yeah, it's on the list. I think a lot of people will agree with you, and it is. What did we say? There's 9 if you count the 2
None of them. If you count
Predator
the Alien versus Predators, yeah,
it's crazy. All right, here's another franchise that also has 9 movies, and dare I say, counting. Although they haven't made one in a while, but that would be A Nightmare on Elm Street. Similar to so I prefer Nightmares to Friday the 13th. I like Freddy more than I like Jason. I liked Freddy versus Jason actually quite a bit. I like the original Nightmare more than the original Friday the 13th. I also think that Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors with Patricia Arquette is a really good movie. I also like New Nightmare a ton.
Yes.
So that's 4 movies that I like quite a bit. There, a lot of the other ones are kind of nah. The most recent one they did, the reboot, remake, or whatever in 2010. I mean, I like Jackie Earl Haley, but like not having Robert Englund in there was a tough go.
And it's kind of like as these movies went on, they got more comedy than they did scary.
Yes, agreed.
And I think it was just such because you had Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So you had Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare, which was like off the wall, bonkers, crazy, right?
Yes.
And then you had Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which was kind of like a meta exercise. It was actually really cool, like the way they did that. Then Freddy vs. Jason was what it was, but then when you had the 2010 remake with Jackie Earl Haley, it was such a shift. Like because they tried Freddy's like this goofball, quippy, like kind of cartoon character, and then to make him like super serious,
right? Because the first one
kind of hard. It was kind of a hard shift for me.
The first one, he would still like talk shit. So like that was so different from Jason and Michael Myers that we had seen prior.
Right.
But he was also like the origin was like he was like a child killer. And you're like,
yeah.
Fuck.
Well, yeah.
Well, and maybe other
things. Yeah.
Right. But that's why the parents in that town like fucking got him and burned him and killed him. And like because they were like, all right, nobody else is stopping this guy, so we got to do it. And then just like haunting your dreams is such a great gimmick for a horror movie.
Just like the fact you can't fall asleep.
Awesome.
And like the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Like that scared the life out of me as a kid.
It's great, scary as shit. So yeah, that's number 5.
So number 4, I'm surprised you're kicking this one to me because this is your baby. So this is go ahead.
All right, with 10 movies and 11 on the way, we're talking about the Saw franchise. Debuting in 2004 and then just ripping movies every Dorktober forever. For 04, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then they took a break, and then you got Jigsaw in 2017, which I actually really enjoyed. Then
that was good.
It was fun, and it was like they did it in a way that made a lot of sense and played with time and like they do in all these movies. Spiral from the Book of Saw. Not my favorite. That was the Chris Rock one. That one was kind of yeah. And then Saw 10, which I actually need to watch again because that was not one of my favorite Saw movies. And yet I've heard from a lot of like Saw fans that they love that one. They're like, it's like their second favorite one. I was like,
really?
I'm like, fuck shit. Maybe I gotta watch.
Remember when we did our Saw retrospective? I still hadn't seen that. I still haven't seen it.
So you know what? That one might be streaming somewhere now. I think I saw it. I was scrolling across it. I still love the first one. The first one's one of my 10 favorite horror movies. I think the next like 3 sequels are all solid. Like I think, or 2 and 3 are really good. I did a rewatch when we did Saw 10. I rewatched all of them, And like Saw 3D kind of blows. It gets a little convoluted with, I think I forget if 6 or 4, which one is bad, but either way, like I thought it was fun. I like the way they do it. They created, like we talked a lot of horror icons thus far, like the big 3, Freddy, Michael, and Jason. Jigsaw became another one of these guys. Like Jigsaw became somebody that you can put on that, easy top 10 horror villains, I would say, all time.
Yeah, and what's the name of the guy on the tricycle? What do they call him?
Billy the Puppet, I believe.
Billy the Puppet. So like he's now in Fortnite, and he's got a tricycle as a vehicle.
Yeah, not bad. I like that.
But again, so people sleep on. So the first time you saw, like again, I'm it's 2004, it's 20 years ago. So if you haven't seen this movie, it's on you.
Dude, the ending
and like the Shyamalan-esque twist, like that was a twist that you're like, oh shit. I think I actually was like, oh shit, like at the end of that movie.
That was one that we saw. This was a college tradition. I think the first 3 I saw with my buddies in the theater. It was like bang, like saw. Yep. So we saw the first one and we were like legit scared afterwards. We're like, this movie's fucking like, it had such a feeling to it. And oh man, was it? I thought that was so well done. Like the twist. Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to say, when did the Ring? I feel like I saw
Ring was 02, I believe, or 01. Maybe the Ring was 01 or 02.
No, because it was. I definitely saw the Ring. I was in college.
02 then.
But yeah, 02. So I remember seeing these things like almost like back to back.
You might have. I mean,
or some
close. But yeah, the Saws were good. Then Donnie Wahlberg showing up in Saw 2, Detective Matthews. All right, so question from Hash King. What's a good age to show your kids Saw? He says, I saw the first one in theaters at 13.
I would say like 12 or 13.
I also think, believe it or not, the very first Saw is not nearly as gory or as torture porn, which became like it sort of fell into that
like
category.
Hostel, like
Hostel and like the Rob Zombie movies. The first Saw actually isn't like that. The rest of them kind of are, and like they ramp it up. The first one's not as bloody. So like, I mean, I don't know. It's like you parent your kids any way you want. I don't know what you're worried about necessarily. The first Saw is scary as shit. I don't know if it's like the most bloody. There's no like nudity.
There's peril. There's like this person might get their head popped off, but
there's quite a bit of peril.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of peril.
So funny story. Can I tell you a Quinn Davey story today?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Had the day off from school. So she says to my wife and kids had the day off from school today. I didn't. So Quinn says to my wife, like, I had just come home, and I was like, what are you guys watching? And Rye's like, well, Quinn wants to watch a scary movie, and I don't really know what to start with because, I don't want it to be too scary. I go, do Scream. Like Scream is like, it's scary, but it's not like jump scary. You know what I mean? Like
I don't think so, dude. I think it's scary.
So I was like, just try it. Like, see, because I didn't want her to watch. I don't want her to watch The Exorcist. I don't want her to watch like something crazy, right? So I'm like, it's a good. But would you agree that like if a teenager had never seen a scary movie, like Scream might be the way in because it's like teenagers and it's.
Yeah, but she's not a teenager.
No. But so here's.
Like, wait a minute. She skipped 4 years. Like, what the hell?
So, I'm like, all right. So I had work to do, and like they would just started it. So like Drew Barrymore's on the screen. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna come check on him in a second. So I wait like 20 minutes, and then I poke my head out of my office, like right out here, to like where the door is to the living room. And when you know it, fucking Full House is on. I'm like, you guys are watching. She's like, yep, couldn't do it. So I had to turn on Full House because I just was so scared.
I remember watching when it was, I told this story a million times on the podcast, but when we had DirecTV at my parents' house back in the day, when it first came out on demand, I must have been 12 or 13 because it came out in 96. So it was probably either later that year, maybe it was 97. So I was probably 13. And every pay-per-view movie, you could watch the first 5 minutes for free. I'd watch the first 5 minutes of Scream like all the time. And I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm pulling the trigger on this. I loved it.
We were like, do you want to go to dinner at the dining hall? She's like, well, I want to stay here by myself. Like after watching the first, I was like, she's like, what if someone calls? I go, Quinn, we don't even have a landline.
Times have changed.
We don't even have a landline phone. Like, no one's going to call you.
Yeah, we're all right.
Like, what if they're trying to call me and I can't answer? Like, what do I do? I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
All right, we learned a valuable lesson today. We're not going to
Yeah.
watch that movie or movies like that for another 3 years. Yeah, that is funny.
Just the whole fact of like a landline phone, just like beyond her.
It's like when a stranger calls, it's like just don't answer.
Just don't answer it.
Don't have to worry about it.
But then, we go, well, just don't answer the phone. She goes, what if they get mad that I don't answer the phone?
Should be. Oh, we're fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah.
Don't let that stress you out. All right, you take this one, and then I'll take the next one, and then you take the last one.
Okay, so 3, we got again 13 movies. Leader in the clubhouse with 13 movies.
Jesus.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
May have the best movie on here, but is at number 3 because of everything else, and that is the Halloween franchise.
Has the best, maybe the worst.
Maybe the worst.
Yeah.
In the same list. And again, there's 13 of these things.
Wow.
And I would say 4 of them are good.
All right, I'll do better than that. I'll say, all right, so good being the word, not great. Good being
not great.
Word.
Yeah.
I'll say 1, 2, 4, 5, H2O. I know it's a little bit of a stretch. The first zombie and the first McBride. I think you could make a case for 8 of the 13 being good to great.
I would say
that's strong, but you could make a case for 8. The other ones you can't make a case for.
I would say 1, 2.
Oh, you don't like any of the Jamie Lloyd ones?
No. I would
4
say
and 5?
1, 2, definitely not 3.
No.
1, 2. I'll give you H2O and the first Danny McBride.
Okay. All right. So neither zombie. The second zombie one's bad.
The second zombie one might be one of the worst ones.
It is. And Halloween Ends is the worst. Gotta be.
Halloween Ends is by far no, I would say Season of the Witch is the worst.
It must be the season of the witch. You know who does a good season of the, you know who does a Season of the Witch version? Lana Del Rey.
Does she really?
Oh yeah.
She married that guy?
She married the fucking alligator wrangler. What the fuck is up with that?
What is up with that?
Fuck you, dickhead.
But I would say, I mean, again, Halloween, the original Halloween 1978, and even Halloween 2, because it like picks up right where the last one left off.
Yeah.
Those might be like the best 1-2 punch.
I like 2. Yeah, 2 was fun. 2's a good time.
It's just so much bad in here. So much bad.
Yeah. Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Halloween 2, Zombie. Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. Throw in Resurrection. Like those are rough goes.
Those are rough goes. But the other ones are so good that you're like,
that's why it's really high on our list.
It deserves to be there for sure.
All right. Let's see. Wait, is this a real question? Which one was the best? Yeah, Chet. So yeah, the first one by far, 1978.
Yeah,
Halloween classic. All right, coming in at number
all yours.
2, top 10 horror franchises. Number 2, 6 movies have been made. The 7th is being made right now. We're talking about the Scream franchise. We were just talking about it a moment ago. I would argue all of these movies are, I would say the worst one is watchable. The worst one is Scream 3. Mm-hmm. And I think you can at least, like, it to me blows all the shitty Halloweens, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street's out of the water. I would take Scream 3 over all of those movies. Scream 1, I'd put on top with it, with everybody else, with Halloween, with anything else. I got Scream 2, I think is actually, it's become an underrated sequel. Scream 2 on its own, I think, is a good horror movie. Mm-hmm. Scream 4 is kind of fun. It kind of gets lost in no man's land because it came out 11 years after Scream 3 and 11 years before the like requel. Just Scream. It's not called Scream 5, but
that's the one with the Culkin kid and
Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah.
And Emma Roberts.
Yes.
So I like Scream 4. I could watch Scream 4 now.
Scream 4 is decent. I would say the Scream 3 might feature the worst haircut I've ever seen in Courtney Cox's bangs.
Yeah, it was a tough cut. It was not a great cut.
That was brutal. They had to like retcon all that shit.
Also, yeah, Jade
Um,
Silent Bob appeared in that one.
Yeah, but I haven't seen Scream 6, but the 2022 Scream was good.
Yeah, 2022 Scream was really good. And so if you like that one at all, I think you'll at least like Scream 6 because you get Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. So you're continuing their storyline. So they're no longer in Woodsboro. They go to New York. They're in college. The Meeks twins are there. And I guess minor spoiler, but it's been out for a couple of years. Hayden Panettiere's character from Scream 4 comes back. So they connect Scream 4 with Scream 6. So
And I will say,
I know Nev Campbell is kind of a real stupid thing, but like whatever.
but she'll be back in the next one, right?
Right.
And I will say now that, like, given more time, I've been like a notorious, like, I don't get it Scream guy.
Mhm.
Like, I don't get why you and everybody else think these are so good. Like, I've said this before.
Yeah.
I'm starting to come around a little bit. I think I'm starting to like get it
They're great.
a little bit more.
I love a world where the characters I'm watching have also seen the movies that I've seen. I like
Right.
that. I like that shit. And even if
Mhm.
it's kind of you know, sometimes they go a little overboard with it. I don't mind it. Like the explaining of the rules. Like I'm good. Like I'm such a sucker for that shit. I also think we talked about like creating another horror icon. I love the Scream mask. I have it displayed behind me on
And why
during all
wouldn't you?
these podcasts. And you know me, Ryan, I love a whodunit. And so unlike these other ones where it's like, oh, that's Michael Myers. Where is he? Let's find him. Oh, it's Jason Voorhees. Where is he? Let's find him. Half the fun of the Scream movies is who's the killer / killers this time. I love a whodunit. And they always, they set you up. They're like, could be this guy, could be that guy, could be this girl, could be that girl. And then there's a big reveal at the end and everybody kind of moves on to the next thing. So
How did you feel about the MTV version of the ghost-faced mask?
I didn't like it as much, but I did watch that series. I watched every season of that series. They were not related, unfortunately. They just kind of took the name, but it was a fun, sexy teen drama horror. It was good.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, so Scream 7, I believe, is coming out in 2026.
2026?
Yeah, I think it's February of 26 when that's going out. But yeah, so I love Scream, and like I said, I think it's got only 6 movies compared to some of these others that have way more. But as far as just my own personal, like, if we were doing dork scores for all of the movies and kind of adding up the averages, this one would probably be the highest, or the one that came in number 1 on our list. The other ones have such like awful ones that like weigh it down, whereas this franchise doesn't.
Speaking of franchises that don't miss, so we're down to it.
Yep.
Do you want to recap it, or you just want to go to number 1?
All right, great idea. Let's recap it real quick, and then let's do a couple honorable mentions. So, top 10 horror franchises: number 10, VHS; number 9, Friday the 13th; number 8, The Conjuring verse; number 7, Night of the Living Dead; number 6, Alien; number 5, A Nightmare on Elm Street; number 4, Saw; number 3, Halloween; number 2, Scream. Some that I liked that just missed were the Final Destination series. Which I think
how many of those? Are there 4 or 5 of those?
There's at least,
I know there's at least 3, obviously.
Yeah, I think there might be 5. You know what one I need to rewatch because it comes up all the time as movies that people slept on was The Exorcist 3. Not 2. Apparently 2 sucks, but the first one's an all-time classic. 2 stinks, and then 3's pretty good. And then there were some more afterwards.
But see, here's the thing. I never really saw The Exorcist as like a franchise because I think you could just put the word exorcist on anything, which they have. And I don't know if they're connected in any way. It's just saying like.
True. No, so I don't think like Emily Rose, for example, or like the Pope's Exorcist doesn't count, but it'd be like The Exorcist, Exorcist 2, Heretic or whatever, Exorcist 3. Then there's like The Exorcist Believer or some shit that came out recently. But anyway, that one was interesting. The Hannibal Lecter one is an interesting one. I know you don't think Silence of the Lambs is a horror, but you could take the Lecter movies, which are like Manhunter, Silence of the Lambs,
Red Dragon,
and Hannibal Rising. And there might even be another one, but like that's not a bad one. I thought about like the Firefly Well, that's more of a trilogy.
I thought you meant like Firefly. You were talking about the Rob Zombie, like House of a Thousand Corpses,
Rejects, and then 3 from Hell. And then you had a couple too. You had, what'd you have?
So I had Terrifier.
Yes.
Which is it's just and again, it just had its third. If you count All Hallows Eve, it already has 3.
Oh yeah, true.
So All Hallows Eve, Terrifier 2, and now Terrifier 3 is now out. So that's kind of like, I think, who was asked? I think was Goo asking us about this, about Terrifier, and like if they're any good.
Yeah, I've only seen the first one still. I haven't hit play on Terrifier 2 yet. The first one was like what you thought, and it was gory and it was good.
And I think what's good about the Terrifier movies is, like, again, I said to him, and I'll say it to our audience at large as well. Movies like Scream, movies like any slasher movie, like they get to a certain point and then kind of pull it back. Like you have like kind of like your shocking thing and like, all right, let's pull it back. Terrifier never does that. It's all gas, no brakes. It is just like, oh, you think that was bad? Wait for this one. You thought that was bad? Wait for this. Like it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it's getting like almost to the point of like, it's so absurd. It's so absurd what they do in these movies. So it'll eventually like have a place like on this list, I think. And you're going to see Art the Clown as, again, one of these.
Yeah.
Like a Michael Myers or like whatever that just keep coming back. Yeah,
he's kicking.
And I think did we say Texas Chainsaw yet?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's another one that's got like really strong ones and then just really shitty ones. But like I actually
Texas 2 is so stupid.
Well, then they also kind of went the comedy route ish.
They did with 2 and 3. They kind of did that, yeah.
But the first one is obviously great. I liked both reboot. They had the Jessica Biel one and
I like the Jessica Biel one.
The Biel one's better. The Jordana Brewster one wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But that leaves us the last franchise standing. And to me, this is number 1 with a bullet. You could, I don't know where it fell on your list, but number 1.
2. I went Scream 1. I did put this 2.
So number 2. So with 5 movies, that is Evil Dead. Now, the worst of these movies, that being in terms of like Metacritic, was like, I think it was Evil Dead. No, it was actually Army of Darkness. It was like rated the lowest.
Geez. Yeah, no, that one's awesome.
That movie is so good. And it's not meant to be serious, obviously, but just like the character of like Ash and like these two. So Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are essentially the same movie. Right, it's basically like shot for shot. Well, one has a budget and one doesn't. Like that's the difference. But actually, the first Evil Dead, with all like the practical effects and like Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell and like so, just a really fucking cool movie. Evil Dead 2, to me, I think when we did our top 100 horror, I think it was number 1 on my list. It's a perfect horror movie. I love Army of Darkness for what it is. Like obviously, it's related to these movies. It's the 3rd of this series, but it's just so over the top weird. And then the Evil Dead reboot was actually really good.
Yeah, who directed that?
It was somebody who did, and it's the same.
I'll double check. I'll look it up. Oh, it was the fucking Fede Alvarez, who did Don't Breathe and did Alien Romulus. That's right. That's what it was.
So like, yeah. So and then did you see Evil Dead Rise?
I sure did. Yeah.
So that the first scene of that movie is fucking terrifying.
It's crazy
in the lake.
Yeah.
And so, but it's kind of like a one. Like it's related. It happens on another coast, so it happens in L.A. But it's actually cool because they're somewhat connected.
Yeah.
Like kind of. Right, because it's multiple people doing like research on the Necronomicon, so they have like their own like copies of it and shit.
Yeah,
but it happens in like an apartment building, and it's like a family. It's like a condemned apartment building, which is right. Like everyone's getting evicted. Like no one really lives there anymore.
Yeah.
And the mom kind of turns on the kids.
Yep.
And it's pretty scary.
Yeah, that might be on Max right now. I think.
Yeah,
you haven't seen that one. That was good.
But I mean, these movies, like they don't miss. I mean, all these things have like some things you could trim away. Like, this is a great franchise, except for these. Like these ones, all 5 of these movies you can watch.
Yo, definitely. And that's the thing. That's what really stood apart from Evil Dead and Scream is the other ones all have shitty movies. Like as good as Halloween and Alien and and like Conjuring, like they all start with a bang. And then it's like, well, here's an idea. And like a lot of them kind of fizzle out or some of them just are awful. But Evil Dead, it helps that they've only made 5 and Scream has only made 6 that like they keep them all really good. Cause it was funny when I was thinking about this, even over the last couple of years, like just best franchises. And if we actually did, if we went through and took the time and did whatever our dork score was for each movie and then averaged it out, Scream and Evil Dead would be like 5 out of 6. It would like be like and then everything else would if you really did the math and you were honest, it would all be like 3, 4, 2.
Right. But if I'm looking at Evil Dead right now, so Evil Dead 83, 5.
Yeah.
I mean 5, 4.5.
Okay.
Evil Dead 2, 6. Army of Darkness, 5. Evil Dead, 5. Evil Dead Rise, 4.5. Like those are all solid.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's a good list. Let us know what you guys thought. You like our list? What did we miss? What did we leave out? I'm sure there are some. Well, one that I wasn't really sure about, and shit like Dracula or Frankenstein or like Godzilla, like do those?
No, because they're not like it's not the same. It's the same story, but it's not the same character.
No, I like our list. I think our list is really good. I have no problem with this list.
Remember how good that Dracula series started?
Yes.
And then just shit the bed.
Yeah.
The BBC one.
It was like 3 episodes. They were
all 3 episodes and they were long.
Yeah. The first one was great. And then it was
the first one was unreal.
Like, oh no.
Second one started good. And then you're like, what is happening? And the third one, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Again, hit us up, dorkpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube at Dork Podcast. And next week, we'll obviously do episode 5 of The Penguin and then something else spooky. We'll do another spooky episode. Yeah, we'll do a spooky one. But all right, that'll do it for us. And Ryan, I know before we get out of here, you wanted to thank someone.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure to thank Beyonce. She is a real inspiration to this podcast, and I just want to make sure that she gets her flowers. So big thanks to Beyonce.
All right.